Hey everyone, I'm Joe. Today it's time for me to do my favourite books of 2019. I know this is a video that many people, including me, look forward to on any booktuber's channel. Seeing why each person chooses their favourite books of the year is always really interesting, when often the selection might be very wide and varied. So why certain books stand out to each person is always really interesting to learn. And indeed, I've been looking forward to filming this video for quite some time. Now, about the books in this video, there will be one series that I will start off with. This is my favourite series of the year. Now, I haven't read that many series overall in the year, so saying favourite series is, I'm not really sure if that's appropriate. It's certainly a standout series of the year, if nothing else. And then there are 8 individual standalone novels, which I will then talk about. Why 8? That's frankly because that's how many caught my eye over the year. There's no other reason. There's not like I'm not trying to do a top 10 type idea. It's just 8 books caught my attention, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Anyway, so the series that I'm going to start with is Joanna's Cabal, the Necromancer series. Now this starts off with, unsurprisingly, the book called Joanna's Cabal, the Necromancer. There are 5 of them in total. I read all 5 in a very short period indeed. I think it took me 2 months to read all 5 books. These books were really, really enjoyable because they are about, as you might have guessed, a guy called Joanna's Cabal. He is indeed a necromancer, which is a person who communes and raises the dead. Necromancers are often thought of in traditional literature and indeed computer games especially as the evil bad guy. And this is what's interesting about this book. Cabal is not a evil man as such. He's not exactly a good man, but he's not directly evil. And it's that sort of halfway point between both good and bad that makes for a really fun character. Weird and wonderful. And indeed that's why the book is weird and wonderful, because the character is. And I would really recommend this series. It's recommended to me by Andrea, whose channel I will link in the description box below, and I really enjoyed it overall. So, on to the books. The first of which is Robots vs. Fairies, edited by Dominic Prisian and Nava Wolf. Now this I didn't know too much about. I read this due to the enthusiasm of several other booktubers, the primary one being Kelsey, whose channel I will link in the description box below as well. And this just sounded quite interesting because this is both, obviously from the title, both to do with robots and artificial intelligence and such, but also to do with fairies and magical type ideas. It's a short story collection. The amount of authors in this are really high. There are Catherine M. Valente, John Scalzi, Ken Liu, Shauna Maguire, Alyssa Wong, and multiple other authors. Some of them I have only heard of in passing, some of them I've read several books by in the past. The collection of short stories and what they do with the ideas of either robots or fairies, or in some cases they mix them in a strange hybrid, is really interesting. This was a really enjoyable novel overall. There were almost no stories that fell completely flat. Even the not as good ones were still enjoyable, just not as standout as others. But overall this was a really impressive collection and I greatly enjoyed it immensely. The next book that really held my attention and I really enjoyed was The Core of the Sun by Joanna Sinisalo. Now this is a really interesting novel. It deals with various social constructs and very interesting ideas within it. I don't want to go into too much detail now because frankly I will be repeating what I said in previous videos, and although Rachel, a friend of mine and fellow booktuber, did a fantastic review of this as well, which I will link in the description box below. She says everything that I could say, but in a much more intelligent and eloquent manner. But this, amazing ideas, amazing writing, and I am very much interested in what else Sinisalo has written, and I will be reading hopefully more this year by her because this was frankly fantastic, as I said. The next book is Glass and Gardens, Solarpunk Summer, edited by Serena Olibari. Now, this is a short story collection. It is relatively short in terms of actual length. The authors in this collection are relatively unknown to me. I think I only knew 2 of them before, and I hadn't actually read either of theirs either. But that curious mixture of relative unknown with an idea that I like the sound of, this being solarpunk. Solarpunk is essentially sort of optimistic and sort of far future sort of science fiction, where you're thinking of what could be better about the future and how could we live in a better world. This is something that appeals to me immensely because I am an optimist. This is a book designed to be optimistic, so this suited me extremely well, and that collection and that sort of unusual mix of little known authors but with really interesting ideas and unusual writing styles by my standard, because I'm not used to the authors, so the writing style is going to be different, was interesting, and I thought this was a very curious collection which I would recommend. There is actually another book edited by Olibari as well in this solarpunk world, so I will very much like to get to that this year as well. The next book is The Stories of Ibis, written by Hiroshi Yamamoto. This was translated by, and I will have to double check this, Takami Nieda, from the Japanese to English, of course. Now, this, if pushed, I might have to say is actually my favourite book of 2019, even amongst all the other books in this video. This was astonishing. I didn't do an individual review of this book, although I wish I had at the time. I might still do that at some point in the future, I don't know yet. But this is an amazing novel, it really is. It is a short story collection of sorts. However, the short stories are directly linked by an overall greater narrative. It starts off with a human getting injured by a robot by accident, and whilst the human is recovering in a world ruled by robots where humanity is actually secondary overall, the robot tells 7 stories of interactions between humanity and robots which appear on the surface to not be connected, but they really are, and the greater narrative is fantastic. I loved this novel. The writing was beautiful, and frankly everything about it was amazing. I would greatly recommend this book, and hopefully I'll still get a chance to mention it in various ways in the upcoming future, because it really was that fantastic. The next book that really stood out to me was Semiosis by Sue Burke. Now, this is a standalone novel when I read it. However, just after I read it, it was announced that she was going to be writing a second book, which has indeed been released at this point. I'm waiting for it to be released in paperback, because obviously that's what I read it in, and I prefer paperbacks. But suffice to say, this was, unsurprisingly for this type of video, an amazing novel. The ideas in it are really interesting. Essentially, a generation ship has gone to a planet, colonised this world with a small colony, and now the colony has realised that they're not entirely alone on this planet purely by themselves. There are other things on this planet, and it's a strange world. The wildlife and indeed the plants are unusual and in some cases unfriendly, let's say, and it creates a really strange and weird and wonderful narrative which I greatly enjoyed, and I'm very curious what she's going to do in book 2, because this first one was amazing. The ideas and the writing and the way she structured it and sort of layers ideas upon ideas was frankly amazing. I really enjoyed it and will recommend this heavily to everybody. The next book that I read was Rhyming Rings, written by David Gemmell. Now, this is the first novel I have ever read by Gemmell. It will not be my last, because this was extremely good. This is actually unusual for this list in that it is the only thriller on this list. Almost every other book here is science fiction, I believe. Yep, with one fantasy. Those being the Cabal novels. And this was a really interesting thriller because it's set in London in the 80s, I believe it was. My memory is a bit unclear on this now because it's been over 6 months. And this is amazing because the protagonist is interesting and curious in various ways I'm not going to go into because it is a fairly short novel, so I don't want to give too much away. And this sort of crime that gets committed and the way that people are trying to investigate this crime and solve it and such is really interesting overall, because this is obviously in the 70s or 80s, I think it's 70s actually, where obviously society in England was changing. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of racism, a lot of sexism. A lot of people were trying to stop there being as much racism and sexism. You know, a lot of social and political upheaval, and this plays into that with a crime that's very dark and one that I thought was really interestingly written, and I really did enjoy this immensely. The next novel is the only ebook on this list, so I'll put a picture up here, and that is Snow White Learns Witchcraft, written by Theodora Garth. This is a short story collection, and the short stories in it were frankly fantastic on the whole. Obviously there were one or two that I didn't quite understand. There was one or two little bits of poetry. Poetry is not my thing, so I didn't quite understand them either. But as a whole, this novel was amazing. The writing and the emotion that she manages to portray and each and every story, even the ones I didn't entirely understand, was still impressive, regardless of whether my level of understanding was enough to get them. She writes in an amazing way, and I really did enjoy this novel, and I would really recommend this because her writing was amazing and I enjoyed it immensely. And finally, onto the last novel of this video, and that is The Wandering Earth, written by Cixin Liu. This was amazing, frankly. This is a short story collection, yet again. This is my first novel by Liu. Again, it won't be my last. The short stories in this, whilst many of them are quite dark and quite sort of almost pessimistic in their nature, at least on the surface, there's a lot more to them than this dark, pessimistic nature. I'm an optimist, as I've said, so that wouldn't always work for me, and this might not have stood out for me if it's all been purely pessimistic. There is light to these stories, and there is these little touches of optimism where, yes, even in the darkness, things might just about work out. It might not be easy, but they might do. All the stories have a sort of a linked theme between them, unsurprisingly. Some of them not as much, some of them more so. But the overall theme of them and the overall feel of these stories was amazing, and these had some really interesting ideas in them. And indeed, the title novel, a short story I should say, The Wandering Earth, which was made into a movie, I did actually watch as well, just before I read the novel in fact, and that was curious as well because it's very different, but kind of mad but fun, which works out quite nicely overall. So with that said, that is actually it for all of my favourite books of 2019. Now, what I've just realised about all of the novels is that 5 of the 8 standalone novels are short story collections, which is frankly strange to think because there's not something I was purposely doing. I wasn't trying to read such a wide range of short story novels in the year, but apparently that's worked out for me extremely well. How many I will read in 2020, I am not sure, but hopefully I will read some, and hopefully there'll be some featured in future videos like this. Please let me know what your favourite novels or favourite books of 2019 were, especially if they are by authors that I am not used to, because I'm always interested to come across new authors and new genres to me that I haven't read before, because of course I always want inspiration myself. All the links to the people and videos that I mentioned in the video can be found in the description box below. With that said, that is it for this video, so thank you for watching and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.